So, formerly a premiership footballer, you're still involved with football through the media, being a pundit and also the podcast and stuff. Do you miss the days of being a premiership footballer?
Yeah, every day. Honestly, every single day. I didn't when I first retired because that was through injury and it was probably taken away from me and it was more of a real release. Yeah, after about 6 months, and I'm now, 6 years retired, I miss it badly. I miss it really badly. I'm talking everything, not just playing, training. I'm talking silly things like on a Tuesday night when you play Newcastle away and you get a victory and you come home and you get home at 2 a.m. and you're shuffling upstairs to bed. And you wake up in the morning, you know you've done well the night before, and the aches and pains, the smell of grass, cut grass, all the silly things like that you can't replicate, you can't get back.
Right, welcome back to the podcast, the Steve and Sully Study. I've got a wicked guest in front of me today, Mr. Steve Sidwell. Thank you very much for your time, mate, and I'm looking forward to this podcast interview with your good self.
Pleasure. No, thank you for the invite. And when you said about coming on, it was a pleasure to jump at the chance and sit down and have a discussion. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Top man. Try not to plug the business too much, but the podcast studio is my business, Woodbury House, which is a private art gallery in Mayfair, Sackville Street. You've been there a couple of times now, Steve.
Yeah.
What was your kind of initial thoughts when you walked through those doors?
Do you know what? Whenever look, I'm really respectful of art. It was never something that I got involved in. There was other sort of things that was more into my taste and like, and even I do like art, but it was a bit of a mindful for me. Going into any art studio, I was going into and I'll be like, they're quite intimidating, to be fair. So, but I really respect it, and people that are involved in it and know what they're doing is great. But this is great here. You walk in, it's a proper art gallery. It's chilled. It's got a nice vibe here. Great pieces all up on the wall. So yeah, it all flows nicely, and then and down into here where it all keeps going on.
Yeah.
It's like never ending.
Yeah. You mentioned something there actually about intimidating. It's part of the reason why me and my business partner, got into the art market, is because we saw a bit of a gap that it was a bit of a sort of, what do you call it, like an old school kind of club that, the elitists were running, and there wasn't a lot of young people kind of blazing their own trail and disrupting it, and that's why we started Woodbury House and made it into the brand it is today. Yeah. So hopefully that comes through, basically, Steve, when you walk through those doors.
Well, that's it. I think it's if you don't know what you're looking at, and I think that's the best thing about art, isn't it? That everyone's got a different opinion on every single piece. You might absolutely love, the piece behind you, and I might go, that's not for me. But that's why it's so good. But yeah, it's nice to go in there and start. But when you start becoming a bit more accustomed to it and knowledgeable, then you start probably letting your guard down a little bit and then asking more questions. Whereas it's very easy for someone to come in and go, "Oh, do you know what? I'm not sure about all of this, and that looks really nice, but that's expensive. Is it a good buy or not?" And end of the day, look, they're all investment pieces, and you want to enjoy any investment, whether it's a car, a watch, a bit of art. So the more you get to know about it, I'm sure the more you enjoy it.
Yeah, agreed. So, formerly a premiership footballer, you're still involved with football through the media, being a pundit and also the podcast and stuff. Do you miss the days of being a premiership footballer?
Yeah, every day. Honestly, every single day. I didn't when I first retired because that was through injury and it was probably taken away from me, and it was more of a real release. The shoulders to drop and go, do you know what? Like I tried for probably just under a year to get back after 2 spinal surgeries. So when I finally made the decision to pack it up, which was so hard, I didn't miss it. But then it slowly comes back, and then obviously the most important thing is your health straight away. But yeah, after about 6 months, and I'm now 6 years retired, I miss it badly. I miss it really badly. I'm talking everything, not just playing, training. I'm talking silly things like on a Tuesday night when you play Newcastle away and you get a victory and you come home and you get home at 2 a.m. and you're shuffling upstairs to bed, and you wake up in the morning, you've done well the night before, and the aches and pains, the smell of grass, cut grass, all the silly things like that you can't you can't replicate, you can't get back.
Yeah. I know you're training for a marathon, the London Marathon. I know you've just done the Brighton half marathon, and we've just had a small conversation about the training, dedication, and even cutting out things like booze and junk food and stuff. That must take you a little bit back into, like, you know, your training days being a footballer and having that routine and a purpose working towards something. Do you miss that aspect as well?
Yeah, it's a massive void when football's taken away, and everyone's different. So I know players that played the game but also done a lot of stuff on the side, whether it was property or, you know, anything, whatever they was into, you know, fashion. I was very much very football. I was one of them people that couldn't take your eye off the ball. If I did, I felt like I'd come off training or come away from a game and not play well, I'd be like, oh, just because you're not on it. I had to be on it all the time. So when you give 100% to the game, and then when you come out of it, it's a massive void to obviously fill. Now, I always wanted to run the London Marathon. I couldn't, obviously, because of the injury. But last year, I watched the London Marathon. I was like, I'm going to make it my goal next year to do it. And then you're right. You're exactly right. When you get back into training, the commitment, the dedication, the training program that you got to do 2, 3, 4 days a week, you can't miss it. Because if you miss it, again, like me, I'm like, do you know what? I didn't do that run, or I missed that one. So, to have that sort of, it brings back being a football player, that commitment and dedication. You're right. You got to sacrifice stuff. If you want to do well in life, you need to do the sacrifices, and it's no different to whether you're trying to bulk up for a fight or trying to lose weight for a holiday, or you say trying to get fit for the London Marathon. Yeah.
Why are you doing the London Marathon?
Well, one reason was I've always wanted to do it. But what really pushed me was a friend of mine got MND, motor neurons disease, probably over a year now, 18 months. And the deterioration that I've seen in him is scary. It's absolutely frightening. I mean, he was healthy, he was a golfer, he was, you know, a loving dad, kids, go and watch him play rugby, cricket, football. Now he's got a walking stick, he can just about get around, and then seeing him and his family go through that has been a really tough watch. So that would give me my initial feeling to do it, and then lucky enough I got a spot through the British Heart Foundation, which again resonates with stuff that's happened to my family. My dad had a heart attack before. My son's got a really rare heart condition as well. So, and I was also on set when Glenn Hoddle had his heart attack as we just come off air, believe it or not, sod's law. So they're the three of the main reasons why I done it. And by hook or by crook, I will get over that line. Yeah.
And what time are you aiming for?
So originally I was trying to do a sub 4. I was always going to be, do you know what, it's one of them, when I said to people I'm going to do London Marathon, they're going to go, oh, you're going to smash it. Because I was a bit of a runner. That was my game when I played. I had stamina, and people would go, oh, you're going to do it. But, you know, what people don't realise is because of my back, I didn't run until last year. I was basically cycling. So I was literally doing 1K last year, 2K, 5K, building it up to then go, do you know what, I think I could do a marathon. So it was sub 4 hours. During the training, there's some highs and lows. I mean, I've had some lows probably this week and last week in terms of training, and a bit of confidence as well, being dropped, going, do you know what, can I do it? Get a few niggles here and there. So the aim is still sub 4. If I can do that, I'll be absolutely over the moon. Yeah,
it'd be a very, very impressive time. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She'd done it a few years ago. 3 hours 44. She done.
Oh, you put it right on me. Yeah. You just stuck it right on me.
I think to get sub 3 hours 45, you get a free admission the year after.
Really?
She done it by 40 seconds or something.
Right. Well, fair play.
I can do that.
Fair play.
Yeah, I can do that.
So in the training, in the early stages, when you're doing like the small runs up to probably a half a marathon, I was kind of coasting, and the time went from sub 4 to a 3:40, 3:50. If I could get in that window, but then I've had a little bit of a dip in confidence and a few little niggles on the knee. So it went back up to 4. But during the race, like everyone says, you know, and I've been there. We used to come up all the time with me and my wife and the kids and watch London Marathon. they just drag you through. That noise and the encouragement just gets you there. So
Yeah.
if I can get anywhere near your better half, then I'll be absolutely over the moon.
In sales, they say you're either manufactured on earth or made in heaven. So your actual natural ability or something you need to need to work on your craft.
Yeah.
And I've heard that same sort of similar expression in different areas of sport.
Yeah.
Boxing,
Yep.
I can think of two different types of personality or two different styles.
Yeah.
And then obviously the world of football.
Yeah.
Would you say you're made in heaven or manufactured on earth as a footballer?
I've never heard that, and I absolutely love that. Brilliant. I'm going to take that away from this today. I really believe that I had a natural talent, and that was proven because when I was, I was playing football from the age of 6. I was playing a year up, sometimes 2 years up, from the age of 9, 10. Was at Arsenal from the age of 10. So there was something that was there that stuck out. Now, I wouldn't say I was the most gifted and flared player. I mean, I was a little kid with red hair that used to just work around like a workhorse, could head the ball, could tackle. People used to say I used to tackle like an adult when I was 10. So that was my niche. That was my gift, and I could pass the ball. I couldn't get the ball, do 5-step overs, beat a player and stick it in the top corner. Very rarely would that happen. So I knew my role. I knew what I had to do, and I worked at it. And it was a natural gift. But I think I probably touched on it before when I said I had to every day be on it. I trained how I played. I had to give 100% and really, really work all the time, because I felt as though even if I come back from like a pre-season or an off-season into pre-season, I'd have to do something off-season as well. I couldn't just have 6, 7, 8 weeks off doing nothing. I know a load of players that can, and have got a natural talent that can turn it on and off like a tap, but I was the one that had to sort of really stay on it.
Yeah. So you were grinding away at the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Can you think of any players that you played alongside or played against that you would feel are made in heaven type players?
Someone that's just got a natural, gifted ability.
Yeah.
Well, straight away, Joe Cole. I played against him when I was a kid, and you knew Joe Cole's name ring around from the age of 12, 13. And when I remember the first time I played against Joe, when I was at Arsenal, when he was at West Ham, and I remember just staring at him, looking at him, going like, wow, that's really Joe Cole. Like, it was Jesus walking onto the pitch. As a natural, gifted ability, he would definitely be one. But he also had that street work ethic to graft as well. I don't think there'd be a handful of players that you'd probably go, do you know what, he made it just because of pure talent and probably could have gone on to more because of but didn't go on to make it because of more dedication and commitment. But I think the majority have got an inkling of it, but they've got 100% more work rate.
So when you were younger, was that the only thing that your mind was focused on, is becoming a professional footballer?
Yeah.
And it was already written out for you?
Yeah, I'm a real true believer of, it's like the universe is all mapped out for you, and whatever turns you make, it's all for a reason. And that was me. I mean, I was kicking a ball I had an older brother that we'd go in the garden, he'd put me in goal at the start and just smash balls at me. And then, always played football. I played cricket, done a little bit of rugby, athletics, but from the age of 9, I was probably training 4 or 5 days a week, playing probably on a Saturday and a Sunday, and football was my life. Even through school, teachers saying, right, okay, the usual, you need to plan for the just in case, and I was like, listen, there's no just in case. And I think that probably stemmed me to get to making it a pro, but also probably give me that fear of failure. So there was
never ever in your own mind a plan B?
No. The plan B was that my dad, this is a true story, so when I was a pro at Arsenal, so signed pro forms, there for a couple of years, I'm training with Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Vieiras, you name it. It's, Arsenal at the time were Premier League title winners, and very rarely did we have a day off under Arsene Wenger, very rarely. And I remember coming home one night, and having a day off on a Wednesday, and having dinner with mum and dad. And my dad's a scaffolder, my brother's a scaffolder, my cousins, uncles, well, the whole family have born all scaffolding. Dad owns a company, and he said, "What are we doing tomorrow?" And I said, "I've got a day off tomorrow." And he was like, "Oh, brilliant, well done, well deserved." So I was like, yeah, because I've been training really hard and working and da-da. And I'm going to bed that night and thinking, "Can I have a lie-in tomorrow?" Well, 4:30 that next morning, crash. My door comes down. Dad comes steaming in, lights on. He goes, "Right, let's go, going to work." I'm like, and I'm sort of all days. I'm like, no, I'm off today. I'm off. He said, "Nah, there's no days off." And he had to be down his yard, sweeping his yard out, loading racks, getting long uns, loading this, moving the fittings from here to there. And it was freezing cold. I think it was in like November. And he said to me, "If you don't make it, believe me, you're doing this." And I was like, "Sod that, I'm not doing that."
So that was a bit of a bit of psychology he was putting onto you.
Yeah, and he was like, and that was it. Like, I come from a hard-working family, and I think he was just laying out to go, "Listen, like, I've seen you through school, and I've seen you do this and that, and you've got football or nothing, and your nothing is going to go into this if you don't."
And he was just trying to give you a little taste of life.
Yeah.
If the football didn't pay off for you, so he was really doing it as a catalyst to make you push on.
Of course he was. Yeah. It weren't just to go and sweep his yard up for no reason. It was a real case of it was an eye opener really to go, "Listen, you've got an unbelievable chance here. You're a young pro at Arsenal Football Club. You've got a hell of a chance to go and have a career in the game at whatever level. That's down to you, but how well you play in games and stuff. But don't muck it up."
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll be doing this. And no disrespect, because again, my brother's a scaffolder, my dad's retired now, I know a load of scaffolders, and it's hard graft. And like even now, I've been involved in property, and when people come to do scaffold, I go, "I'm mucking." They look at me like I'm mad. I go, "No, listen, you tell me what you want me to do." Yeah. And I'm in normal gear like this, and I'll take this off, and I'll have a pair of trainers on. I go on, you get up there, I'll load it all up to you. They're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, because that's me. And I think that was just really driven in me from my dad and my mum, really, as well.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
2007, you signed for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Now, before we ask about Chelsea, when I first met you, I think I asked you who you support now as a football team.
Yeah.
But then when I was doing a little bit of research online, it was a little bit conflicting because at the start it said Crystal Palace. Yeah. Then I think you pivoted into Arsenal.
Yeah.
Now I believe Steve Sidwell supports Chelsea.
Yeah. So I never really supported Arsenal. I was at Arsenal from the age of 9 all the way through till I was early 20s when Reading bought me. So I used to go and watch all the games. You used to get tickets, and people used to go, "Oh, look," when I was younger, like my dad's mate would support Arsenal. My dad would go, "Look, Steve can get like a couple of tickets," and I'll end up taking them. And I used to go and watch a lot of their games. But I we grew up in Mitcham, moved out to Croydon, so Palace was our hometown,
the natural place,
hometown team. My first game I went to watch was Crystal Palace at Sellers Park. I went to the 1990 FA Cup final that Palace played against Man United. And I know we've got a lot of Palace connections as well, going back from Dad's friends to players that play there now, to staff, to chairman's owners. Like there was a bit of a family connection always with Crystal Palace. They always wanted to sign me as well. I mean, I remember I had Ron Nodes and Steve Coppell, who was manager at the time when I was probably about 11, 12, come to my house and say to my mum and dad, "How are you driving your son to Arsenal in North London when we've got Palace here?" But it was a no-brainer to go to Arsenal. Anyway, so yeah, Palace was always the connection. But Chelsea, my mum and dad, they're from Balham, Tooting Beck. So again, all family are all
Wandsworth area.
Are all Chelsea. So the day that I signed for Chelsea was, you can imagine, huge.
Was that a bit surreal, sort of signing for the team that you support?
Yeah, it was. Because I knew I was leaving that season from Reading to go onto a new club. What new club? That changed near enough every other week, because every other week I would play someone I'd play really well, and then whether it be Spurs or Middlesbrough or Newcastle, they'd make contact with the agent and go, "Look, what's going on with Steve next year?" So when Chelsea come in, it was a no-brainer, because 2007, that's when Jose Mourinho was at his pomp. They just won the league back to back. So when they come in, it was a big decision, because a lot of people I got seeked advice from a lot of people, and they was like, look, you're probably not going to play, is it going to be the right move? But I was like, but there's always a but, isn't there? I was like, but I can play, and I could come away with a Premier League winners medal, maybe a Champions League winners medal, an FA Cup medal. What if I say no, and then Chelsea go and then win X, Y, and Z trophy next year? Am I going to look back at that in the future and go
that could have
to
been
my kids,
on your CV,
I could have done that, and then my boy go to me, why didn't you? What can you possibly say back from that? So I was always a believer of go in head first. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, you give it a go. That's all you can do. So the day that I signed, I called my dad at Stamford Bridge. He come, signed the contract with me, and yeah, I mean, I was over there. I was there for just over a year and a half. It was probably at Chelsea's worst time, rockiest time, in that generation where they was winning everything. So Jose Mourinho left, and it was a bit of a tough one, but loved it.
So when you go back there now to Stamford Bridge as call it a fan, how are the fans? How do they treat you when you walk through there?
It's one of them where I was only there for just over a year and a half. I didn't really play I played a bit. I didn't really play a lot. Jose Mourinho left. I think fans look at me and go, you hear some fans go, oh, Chelsea legend, brilliant, can I have a picture? But I'm like, no, I'm not a Chelsea legend. Like, let's put things straight away. Like, I love the club as much as anyone else does, supporter wise. But they're great with me. They're great, but I don't go there and get bombarded or anything like that. So yeah, I'm happy to go there, watch a game with the boys, my kids, and then and come away. And if it's a Chelsea win, then happy days. Yeah,
because it was like, casting my memory back, and it's some time ago, but you had the likes of Frank Lampard in the same position as you.
Yeah.
Is it Essien?
Yeah, bloody hell.
And you had so many elite players.
Yeah, Lampard, Essien, Makalele, Joe Nobi Mikel, Michael Ballack.
Yeah,
there was loads. Yeah, so I mean, I knew the roster, I knew the list before I was going to go there, and I weren't going there to make up the numbers. I was going to get some game time. But the thing was, right, go there, give it your best shot. You could hopefully come away with maybe a winner's medal in X, Y, and Z. But listen, it never materialised.
Yeah.
So I think the year that I was there actually was probably their worst year. We lost the Champions League final to United when JT missed.
Hit the post.
Yeah. We lost the league, I think, by a point to United as well. Got knocked out the FA Cup to Barnsley in the quarterfinals. Oh. Lost the League Cup to Spurs. All in one season. So yeah, I come away with nothing. But good times though.
Playing alongside your fellow Englishman, Frank Lampard. Yeah. I mean, I think he was Chelsea's number one goal scorer, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible player. And I remember when he left, got signed by the New York club, and then he passported back into Man City. Yeah. He ended up scoring against Chelsea and not celebrating. Yeah. If you put yourself in Lampard's shoes, who didn't want to leave Chelsea, then end up playing against Chelsea and scoring against Chelsea, what was that bittersweet feeling? What could it be like for a player? So
knowing Frank, I've never seen someone work hard or dedicate himself to their game as much as him. Like, I thought, we spoke about work ethic and commitment and that. Like, he was unreal. He took it to another level. Him and John Terry, both of them. But when I'd watch Frank after training and grab a bag of balls and do these certain finishes or certain drills, not just getting it and just, having shots outside the box, it was always game related, or he'd always working on these little sprints or little passes and manoeuvres, link up play. It's no secret that what he achieved in terms of being Chelsea's greatest goal scorer, because he worked at his craft. So to watch him do that, I was like, Joe, what? And you start taking snippets on as well. So then when I left Chelsea, I took bits of what Frank done into my game. So knowing Frank is the way I do, to go back and score against Chelsea obviously would have been hard. Even to line up against Chelsea would have been hard. But he's there to work, and he knows what his job is. And if that means he's got to score, then that's what he's going to do. So, yeah, he's very dedicated, he's very committed, and he knows where the back of the net is for sure. But it wouldn't have got in his mind frame at all that this is Chelsea. Like, that would have been, as soon as that whistle started, that would have been another game. End off until it happens after. and even the way that Chelsea fans celebrated, to be fair, him still scoring and giving him a round of applause, that just goes to show how much they think of him.
Yeah, he's a true winner, Frank Lampard. Reflecting on your career then, Fulham, would you say that was probably your highlight or the best fun time
Reading,
for you?
When I left Arsenal to go to Reading, because I went, again, I was probably put on a pedestal from the age of 9, being in Croydon. I think I was the only player in Surrey that represented Arsenal at any age group. So when I played school football or county football or even Sunday League football, people would always go, you could hear him muttering going, oh, that's the lad from Arsenal, he plays for Arsenal. So to go all the way through to Arsenal and become a pro, but not quite good enough to then make that next step up, it was a big call to come down. I could have stayed there. I could have stayed at Arsenal for another couple of years and been happy as a young pro and get a lot of money and not play and be on the bench and still live that life to go, oh, yeah, I'm a young pro at Arsenal. But I wanted to play. So Reading gave me the opportunity and I thought, right, do you know what? That was the bit that I'd be sort of between my teeth to go to show people. I think that's always been my drive, to always strive to prove people wrong. So the 4 years or 5 years that I had at Reading was very good. And I felt as though I could do anything from the age of 20 to 24, 25 was a real good spell. And I probably got that back when I went to Fulham. Okay. I played at Fulham.
And when you compare to, Fulham, Reading, Arsenal, Chelsea, probably from the Chelsea moment onwards in your career, because, you're obviously becoming more of an adult and a seasoned player.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the culture in different changing rooms. Because I remember reading online, probably where you got your kind of friendship with Crouchy at Stoke.
Yeah.
It was kind of like full of banter, full of games and stuff. But then probably in other dressing rooms, maybe more like Chelsea, could be quite serious at times.
Do you know what I've got to say? I've been really lucky that every single dressing room I had at every club, I loved. Now, people would go, yeah, but like, so for instance, Aston Villa, we haven't even mentioned Villa. I was at Villa for 3 years. What a dressing room that was. Bad for me personally. Had some issues on and off the pitch. Didn't play well on the pitch. Couldn't get myself going. Off the pitch, my middle son got meningitis, so I was in London and in hospital for quite a lot. But what a dressing room. I looked forward. I couldn't wait to get in every day. So when you walk through a dressing room and you can look round at near enough, and you're not going to get on well with everyone, but the majority, you look around and you go, do you know what? This is going to be a good day today. And being a footballer is like no other job. Honestly, you are a little kid from the age of 6 to the age of, I was 36 when I retired. And it's the same every place. Now, there's obviously always going to be a work ethic. There's always going to be serious moments. But the dressing room banter and, the camaraderie, and you see them players more than you sometimes see your family.
Yeah.
And when you're on the pitch, you are a band of brothers. And I was a big sort of instigator for that as well, to say, look, team spirit would get you whatever, 7, 8, 9, 11 points for a season more than technical work. Yeah, technical work. That grind, that grit that, you might be 1-0 down with 5 minutes to go and then you win 2-1. Like, you don't get that if you're not all in the same direction. So I was lucky enough that I had that at every single dressing room. Some were madder than others. Like the Stoke dressing room was crazy, in a way that it probably policed itself. The manager would never have to come down and give us a bollocking. He'd have to just go into someone's ear, listen, nip this in the bud, and the doors would be shut, the boys would be in there, right, done. So, yeah, it goes a long way. I don't think that will ever change through football, in terms of always being there, but I think it's probably got a little bit less as the seasons have gone on and as I've retired. Yeah,
I mean, I've not been in one of these changing rooms. I can only say it from an observer and a bit of a fan, and looking online and reading reports and stuff, or forums or Instagram posts, etc. But as you mentioned, banter and the practical jokes, etc., that kind of brings everybody together, and it brings a bit of humour and a bit of lightness to the thing. But as time has gone on, we're in this world of social media, and you've got to be very, very careful what you say and how you respond to certain things. I can imagine things have kind of diluted a little bit, and it's becoming a different version of what you're used to.
Yeah.
How would you compare the previous culture that you used to experience to today's culture?
Yeah, I think in the previous culture, everyone was relatively similar backgrounds. Even the foreign lads that would come over, they would have a similar background. You might have the flared players, the Mavericks, but again, they would know the culture of England or London or the dressing room and get involved as well. I think it's very, very much now diversified, as you said. There's a lot of diversity in football, and I think there's probably a little bit more tiptoeing, treading carefully that goes on now. Like if something needed to be said back in the day, people would say it. Door would be shut. There'd be fingers pointed out in your face, and you take it on the chin. Whereas I think now, I don't think players are probably open to criticism as much as what it was back then. Now, whether that's been brought up a little bit differently or pampered away through the academy, or that they could probably get stick on social media and they don't want it from their peers. So, and you find that out when in the tough times. In the good times, probably like yourself in this environment, when things are going well, everyone's walking through the front door, everyone's got a spring in their step, everyone's nice to each other. But when stuff ain't going well, when you're on a bit of a rut and you're losing games, or the manager's under a bit of stick, or you're getting under a bit of stick, and then that's when the finger starts pointing out, and there's a bit of a blame culture that goes on. Whereas I think back in the day that would have got squashed very quickly. Whereas now I think it can rumble on probably a little bit more.
And you mentioned about the pendulum swinging from management or the club actually to the independent individual players, because the players seem like they've got a lot more power now. Yeah. Whether that's because of their social media presence or I don't know, but it seems like some of them now are answering back. Whereas I used to, I've watched the David Beckham, Netflix documentary, and he mentions about, Sir Alex Ferguson going in now. And what was it? Having like altercations with some of the players. And once he said something, you better listen, otherwise you're out that door.
That's it. That is exactly it. Yeah. No, I think again, the culture that I come in and probably even towards the back end, it was still there. Was the manager was like, listen, this is my train. You're either on it or you're not. But I think again, what happens now in football is you get players that start signing, let's just say, 6-year deals, 8-year deals. I think I think Haaland just signed a 10-year deal. Was it? You start getting players that are on that length of contract, and again, I never forget. I see the conversation at a club where I see a player tell the manager that he was going to be at that club longer than him. I mean, that's just and I'm in front of the whole dressing room, which is just unbelievable. I mean, the respect level for starters is not there, but the player now does have the power, because it's the writing's on the wall. The managers, if they're not successful, I think what's the average span now for a manager? 9 months, is it? Until they get another job or until they lose their job. Whereas players, if you sign a 5-year deal, regardless if you want to be there or not, you can be there for 5 years and get paid every single penny.
Yeah. There is a thing in the media, mainstream media, and then when you look through the comments and stuff, not on everybody and not on every single subject to do with football, but you will get occasionally the haters will rear their ugly head and talk about the money in football. And whilst I think it's amazing, anyone making a huge amount of money in boxing, football, stockbroker, business person, etc., when they start making comments in the thing, you're thinking, has some of the wages maybe put too much power in their position? Yeah,
I think, listen, money is power.
Yeah.
In any walks of life. And you can't begrudge any player earning whatever money they're getting offered. There's a lot of stigma at the minute with young players getting a lot of money, and I think that can be handled probably in a better way. I'm talking real young players from whatever, 17, 18. But look, they deserve to earn every single penny that they earn. And one thing is for sure, that there's no loyalty in football. You think you're going to be loyal to this football club, and that football club will do the dirty on you just as quick as you would if you wanted to leave. But yeah, there is an element of power, money, and and the power has shifted to players. I speak to young managers now that are in the game, someone like Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard and Scott Parker's, and they're like, look, it's tough. It's really tough. You got to massage egos. You got to know he needs this. He needs an arm around the shoulder. I can't do that to him. You got to know everyone inside out, which is an art. It's a real man management style. I think you got to have your own ethos, your own style of play, and your own boundaries. And the players have got to respect that. If they step out of it, then they'll get punished. But yeah, it's tough to massage that many egos that only 11 players can play on a Saturday, and you've got 25 that are all vying for 11 spots.
Yeah. Can you cast your mind back when you was playing and maybe the team was down, the team that you were playing for, you went in half time and the manager walked through that dressing room and gave a powerful speech that turned the mindset around and you went back out there and gave it a good shot? Was there any kind of moments in your career where there was a bit of a tipping point?
Yeah, you have loads. And that all comes down to different sort of the styles of manager. I remember Steve Coppell coming in once at Reading, and he was very much a calm, like he'd come in and he was never a shouter, but he'd come in and go, boys, you let yourself, like he'd put it on you to go, you've let yourself down, you let me down, you let the fans down, like you're a little kid and that you've really let your mum and dad down. Do you know what I mean? That sort of scenario where you're going, do you know what? That's not right, that. And then you go, listen, the good thing is you got another second half to go and make amends. Like, go out and do it. So he had that kind of approach. And you have someone like Jose Mourinho that would have like just pure mind games. He'd be like, boys, I knew we was going to lose this game at half time 2-0. I knew it. Like, we've battered this team. We haven't played great, but we've battered them. We've hit the post, we've hit the bar. And I knew we was going to lose coming here 2-0 down. Don't even worry about it. Just carry on what you're doing. We're going to win 3-2. Go do it. And I swear, that is what you do. And you'd be thinking, oh, right, he must be right. Then you go out, then you score 1. You're thinking, this fella's a genius. Yeah. Score 2, then you score 3. You're thinking, oh, my God. And he's just there sitting like that. One of them. So, again, it's all mind games. And like he obviously doesn't know that we're going to come back and win 3-2. But it's just his way of getting it over to the players. But yeah, there was loads of them throughout seasons.
Look, leadership isn't just about the management or the owners. It does come down to the individual players as well. So bar the captain, was there any kind of standout individuals where you went into that dressing room or you was on the pitch and there was clear people you can identify as clear leaders?
Yeah. Well, when I was at Chelsea, you had a handful straight away. Like John Terry, I've never seen a captain like him before. I knew JT growing up from playing against him when I was at Arsenal, when he was at Chelsea. And obviously watching him before I got to obviously sign for Chelsea as well, you knew what he was about. And then when you see him in the dressing room and even the way he conducts himself around the training ground and even a lot of stuff that he does away from the game with charities and people that are in in hospital that you might go and see that a lot of people don't see. He was by far head and shoulders, and again he could see, and again it's probably a thing with experience with him. He could see things bubbling before it escalated, and he could nip it in the bud, or he'd know how to stop it. And he was lucky as well that he had someone like Frank Lampard, Petr Cech, who was great, Didier Drogba, again presence. Someone like Didier was like unreal. Like he would honestly say, boys, on cup final days, he'd say, boys, if you want to win this medal, just give me the ball and I'll score. And you look at him going, he means it. Like he's not just saying that just for like to G people up. He's looking me in the eye going, if I want to win a medal, give him the ball and he'll get this a goal. So they're strong characters. And like that dressing room at that time, for Chelsea had him in abundance. Makelele, again, someone that was quiet, but when he spoke, again with his experience from Real Madrid and winning things, you'd be like, oh yeah. Like if he's making people be quiet so he can say something, then it means something to him.
Look, just going off of that, because you just sparked my memory. I was actually in a Jay-Z concert, I believe, or it was either a Kanye West and a Jay-Z concert at the O2. Yeah. And I was in the box. But at the same time, we had the mobile phone going because we was watching the Chelsea final against Bayern Munich, where we were down and we was in Bayern Munich. Yeah. And obviously, the outcome of that is we went into penalties and he took the last penalty and won it for us. Yeah. And looking back over these documentaries that have come out since then, he was like, this final corner, I've got to get this goal. I have to header it in. Yeah. And it's again that full belief that even when you've got dying seconds of a game, he can turn it all around. And then he had to take the last penalty, which is so much pressure on your shoulders in the other person's backyard to then go on and win Champions League final. Yeah. Where does players get that kind of belief from?
I have no idea. But like he had belief. Like honestly, like he would train Monday to Friday. And he'd be out there, you know, I'm not saying he'd toss it off, but he'd be out there, but he weren't like it. There'd be sessions where he was at it, but there'd be a lot of times where he was just going through the motions, just getting ready for the weekend.
Coasting.
Yeah. And you knew that when it come to the Saturday, like you couldn't put him up on the Monday to Friday because you knew on the Saturday when it was time to deliver, he would deliver. But where he got that confidence from, like I just don't know. But he had it. He had it in abundance. He had that one where he could just walk into a room and you just sort of go back and you go, wow. Like he just had that real presence, the real aura. And like I said, like he used to say things. Like I think he scored in every final he played in.
Unbelievable.
Like every final. Like that's like I don't think Mo Salah's scored in final. Thierry Henry never scored in every final. You know, so. We're talking about one of the true greats for Chelsea and what he done. And his presence and the way he was and the way he used to speak to people, you used to be like, right, come on, like these boys, if they're passionate every year, like season in, season out, they want to win, they want to leave a legacy, they want to just get as much trophies as they can. Yeah. So it definitely resonated with me.
The conversation always comes up, and you've probably been asked this a million times on podcasts and also being a pundit on Sky Sports, etc. Yeah. Ronaldo, Messi, who is the GOAT?
So for me, I'm a Messi fan, and again, I think that is when you go back to earlier on. I think that is just pure talent. That is just pure talent. He can turn it on and off like a tap whenever he wants. But in saying that, I respect Cristiano Ronaldo unbelievably because he wants to leave a legacy of being the best player in the world. Like that was his drive. I mean, and people could go, oh well, I want to play in the Premier League, I want to play in the World Cup. He wants. Imagine saying that. Imagine have that drive to go, the determination to say, I don't want to just be a good player or a great player. I want to be the greatest ever. You know, goal scorer, what I've won. And someone that's worked at their craft, you see him with all like the ankle weights on what he was doing in training and to sharpen up his feet and, you know, the way that he looks after himself, his physique.
He's in such great shape now.
His recovery, I mean, I think he's got a cryo chamber and the ice baths. He does everything, you know. And again, you can do that when you're getting paid what he gets paid over a chef and this and that. But he doesn't need to do that, you know, regardless of the money. But yeah, he looks after himself, and for someone to do that to the very, very end of their career is mind blowing.
Because you know, like I always refer to certain scenarios to sales, right? The biggest thing, like if a salesperson is really, really good at what they do, but they start earning tens of thousands of pounds a month, and sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds a month for commission because they're very good at what they do. There is an element of, because they've got money in the bank, you know, the drive, the want, the determination can drop off. And it takes a very, very special individual to keep that on. When I look at sports athletes, Mayweather, right? Mm-hmm. Never was beat, 50-0, grossed over $1 billion and kept on fighting like, I mean, still even doing it today in the exhibitions to make 10, 15, 20 million. Yeah. You've got Michael Jordan from the basketball world. Again, someone who's grossed over $1 billion and keeps them going on. And I was looking even earlier, just because I'm interested in sports and also business. Ronaldo gets paid something like $200 million a year. And it's almost like most people, if they had even 1% of that slice of that, you know, that income, they wouldn't be doing ice baths. No. They wouldn't have the private chef. No. They would be on booze, and they definitely wouldn't have the determination. It's probably a similar question to the Didier Drogba one. I mean, what gives certain players or certain individuals that special characteristic to keep them pushing on?
I think it's just literally a mindset that no one else has got, and and one that they know that they can achieve. Like the Floyd Mayweather one. Again, I love my boxing, and then when you watch all like the behind the scenes when he's training, so like even like what you just said there about Michael Jordan or Mayweather or Ronaldo, people only see really the matches. No one really sees the 5 days before or the build up to that, what they're going through in training, what they're doing at home, what their recovery is, what extra training they might be doing away from everyone else. No one sees that. Everyone just sees the tip of the iceberg, don't they? They don't see all underneath, all the foundations, all the layers that gets them to where they can perform like that. And I think that is just a real unique mindset that they've got, and as you say, it's a drive, it's a determination to go next one. I remember Crouchy saying it about Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher. It's like they win on a Saturday. Crouchy's thinking, happy days, yeah, they've got 3 points, going to go and have a beer. Like they'd go and have another beer, but they're talking about next week's game, and he's like, let's enjoy tonight, lads. You know what I mean, let's talk about next week on Monday. They're like, no, it starts now. So I think it's just that winning mentality that certain individuals have got, and then when you're in a culture or an environment that gives you the best chance to do that and win that, then it stays with you for a long time. I go back to the Man United team that just won all them Premier League trophies. Now again, probably at the time they might have only had 1 or 2 challengers, Arsenal being one of them for a few seasons. Then obviously the Man City's come and stuff like that, but they was just churning it out, all of them. They was like, no one's getting in our way. Like, this is our lane. And like, you think Paul Scholes and these guys, they've won 10, 11 Premier League titles. That's just that will never be done again, ever. No one's going to be doing that. But again, that becomes from someone like Sir Alex Ferguson, the culture, the environment, like building this like this machine that anyone comes in front of us, it's just getting wiped out.
Yeah. You mentioned Gerrard. This was another question I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
There's always been that bit of a debate.
Yeah.
Frank Lampard or Steve Gerrard, who would you say is a better player?
Well, I mean, people obviously say them two and Paul Scholes, didn't they, as well? So, look, all 3 of them were unreal. And I played with Frank, and I played against all 3 of them. Now, Lampsey, as good as an all-round player he was the best goal scorer. Like, to score 20 goals a season, Premier League goals a season, for 5 seasons in a row from midfield is phenomenal. And again, I don't see that being beaten in the Premier League era. So that puts him ahead of the others. But then what the others have got, what Stevie had, playing against him, you knew you was in for a game. By hook or by crook, he was winning every game. Like, he would end up at left back, right back, centre mid. He would drive around. He would smash into people. He'd drag people with him. It'd be like he wouldn't accept losing. So he was like phenomenal. But for me, Paul Scholes was just unreal. And I don't know whether it was when I was at Arsenal and when I was coming through. And again, that's when Arsenal and Man U were going for the title. I remember training and the build-up from Monday to Saturday when Arsenal played United. You got likes of Thierry Henry, Perez, Dennis Bergkamp, Vieiras. They're all saying, if we stop Scholes, we win the game. Bearing in mind, Man U still probably had Andy Cole, Dwight York, whoever, Van Nistelrooy, Roy Keane. They all said, if stop Scholes, like he's head and shoulders by far their best player. And he was. He was just head and shoulders on the pitch. Football IQ was just ridiculous. He would see patterns build up before they'd build up. Like, I'd be marking him and he'd go move to an area. I'm thinking, why is he moving over there? And then before you know it, 2 or 3 passes happen and it's to the point where he's standing. And then by the time you try and get there, it's too late. He's done a 60-yard diagonal ball over. His football IQ was just a joke, but also it was the way that he passed the ball. Like, people, I don't know, people listen to this might think this is mad, but thinking everyone is the same at kicking a football. It's probably the same as boxing. You're thinking everyone can throw the same jab, but there's people that when they throw a jab, they throw a jab.
Yeah, it's crisp, it's just
it's
whacked.
Exactly the same as football. When Scholesy hit a pass, So when he'd like sling a diag 50, 60 yards over your head, the sound would be like a missile. It'd be like you'd hear it and you go, oh wow. And even the noise when he left his foot, like everything was like a punch. It was like a
clean.
And you only get that when you're close to him.
Yeah.
So people would like go, oh, but everyone can kick a ball, everyone can do this. Like he could do things that just the sound was just there,
seamless.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And that's why for me that just put him just above. And I say only just because Gerrard was phenomenal, but just above Steven Gerrard.
I think when I interviewed Kieran Richardson, I believe he said when I asked him who was the best player he's ever played alongside, and he said Scholes. And I think I read somewhere as well that I think even Ronaldo mentioned that Paul Scholes was the best player, and it probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves because he's quite an introverted type of character, therefore doesn't make himself as well known to the general public because he's not screaming from the rooftops, and he's quite a well-grounded individual. But I just remember some of the goals he scored. That volley that he scored outside of the box was just incredible.
Yeah, and not many players can do that. So
much control.
And you're right, like I'm talking great players like Ronaldo or Zidane. They've all said Paul Scholes. Like by far, some of them have said like that's their hardest opponent. So for them to say that, you got to go. If your top peers as well are saying that, you're thinking he's got to be half decent.
Coming away from football then and now being a pundit and going into the world of podcasts and the media and stuff.
Yeah.
That almost seemed a bit like a natural progression. It seems like you've got the natural kind of, dare I say it, personality and characteristics for it, Steve.
Yeah.
You're very, very good at it.
Thank you.
Was that transition into that world as easy as it appears?
Yeah. It was an easy one for in terms of my transition. When I was playing, after games, the comms guys would throw me in front of the cameras because if we lost wherever, 2-0 away at Nottingham Forest, they know that I'd go in there and I could explain it in a diplomatic way rather than, letting the club down by swearing or orling and hooting, or digging people out. So, it was, and I was always comfortable doing that as well. So going and doing TV, podcast or radio or co-coms was a natural progression, but I was doing that alongside coaching as well. So when I retired, I was still coaching at Brighton. I was doing the 16s and the 18s. I loved it. But I was doing too much. Of both. And the plan was to do both and see what one basically either took off or what one I enjoyed more. I've still got obviously 4 kids, but they was a bit younger. I wanted to spend a bit more time with them because when you're in football, especially coaching and managing, you're in it. It takes over your life. Whereas the punditry side, you've probably got a little bit more flexibility with the family life. So look, I enjoy it. It's great when you go to the studio or the next week you go into the stadium and you pitch side and you get the buzz back of game day or game night. Whether it's, as I say, doing the TV or doing the radio, co-coms or podcast, different guests. It's nice. It's enjoyable. It's a good platform to do it. It's a good platform to showcase what your own stories and insights, and also get to know other people as well.
Did you ever have to do like media training, or when you're going into it more as a profession and a serious career?
Yeah.
Was there coaching and was there kind of courses you had to do?
Yeah, no, there was. I went to see someone, Rob Noffman and Matt Curtis, who work in the industry now. They give great insight for me. So little snippets, for instance, like when a goal goes in and you're doing commentary, you obviously, when the commentator finishes the goal scorer scoring, it's over to you then to do your input. So there'll always be 3 replays. So don't split it all out on the first replay because you've still got another 2 to go, for instance. And if it's a worldy goal or if it's an unbelievable strike, there's a possibility that there could be 5 replays. So little nuggets like that. So when you do TV, people can see the game. They don't need you to explain what's happened. They need you to explain how it's happened or why it's happened. But when you're doing radio, you got to paint the picture because they can't see it. So you need to give them.
It's interesting.
You need to give them more insight. What, like where he's picked the ball up on the right hand side, he's drifted just inside the box, or he's got to the byline, he's stuck it up to the far post. You're painting that picture for them in their car or in their kitchen and listening to it, going, "I've got it, clear as day."
Yeah. Being a pundit and involved with the media side, VAR, has it ruined the game, or has it just changed the game?
It's changed the game, yeah. Like, I wouldn't say it's ruined it. It's ruined it in some aspects. It's made it more clinical. It's ruined it in terms of fans celebrating, players celebrating a goal, like 100% or not, because you're thinking, "Oh, I might have been offside." And it's, like I say, it's becoming too black or white. Now, I get it. Football is now a business, and it has been a business for a long time. There's a lot of money in stakes, whether it's going to be from position to position in the league or qualifying for Europe. There's a lot at stake now. So clubs, managers want the decisions to be right. But I miss the pub after the game where, "Oh, that weren't a penalty," or "Oh, yeah, that was a blatant penalty," or "That one was offside." You don't get that no more. It's VAR's done it. It's collapsed it. So, but that's the old side of me that loves that sort of old discussion. Whereas, I think it's just become a bit too clinical.
It swings and roundabouts, right? I think there was that goal that Lampard scored but was disallowed for England, hit the crossbar and in, and that would have played in our favour, but unfortunately it wasn't around. But then on the other side of the coin, it can go right against you.
Exactly that. And I think you're right. I think over the course of the season, they probably do balance themselves out, barring one or two. But I think there's still some way to go with it for it to be correct, VAR. But at the moment, it's on the steps to get there. But it's just dissecting it a bit too much for me.
Yeah. Just want to ask you one or two more things, mate, before we wrap up. I nearly forgot about. It's a thing I'm interested in, which I mentioned to you before we started. I watch a lot of podcasts, including the ones that with you and Crouch, and Rio Ferdinand was on, and I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. I think he's a really, really good,
Rio's great.
Character. He lives right by me in Kent, and I've seen him a few times around. He mentioned about the drinking culture days, and it seems like back in the day, back in 2005, 2007, up to about 2010 or 11, it was quite a serious kind of thing. As in, players would get together, train together, work really, really hard. But as hard as you would train, you would also enjoy yourself really, 100%. Really hard. But now it seems like it's moving away from that quite swiftly. How true is that? Is the drinking culture now gone from football?
I wouldn't say completely. It definitely has dampened down. So you go back to when I was coming through at Arsenal, massive drinking culture at Arsenal. Arsene Wenger come in, sort of wiped it clean a little bit. Boys are still going out and having a beer, but nothing compared to what it was. When I was coming through, after away games, like the food back then, like you'd put an order in for fish and chips at the nearest fish and chip shop. And then you get off and then there'd be a crate of beers and you're having beers. And that was just a culture. People would go, that's like now, like the modern woke people would be like, how are you doing that? But everyone was doing that. It weren't just the clubs I was at. It was every team was doing that. And you're right, you train on a Tuesday, you'd run hard, because you'd have the Wednesday off. And then the whole squad would be down the pub or going out in town on a Tuesday night. And it was everyone, absolutely everyone. Whereas now, I think the drinking culture has definitely gone from the modern player. I think you wouldn't see him in pubs. You see him every now and again in nightclubs and stuff, but I think even then when they get in tables, they're not necessarily drinking all the booze. I think it's more for their mates and their entourages and stuff. But I think there's much more of I think what training grounds are trying to do more of, they're trying to keep players there more. So the players' lounge, for instance, will have dartboards, table tennis tables, a load of TVs, computers, computer games. Leicester City's got a 9-hole golf course attached to theirs. So they want the squad to be together as much as possible. So I think they are together as much as well, but there's nowhere near as much of a drinking culture, which is right, to be fair, because that you look at things now and you go into training grounds, for instance, Brighton's training ground, the canteen is not a canteen, it's a restaurant. Like, it's a full-blown, like, you've got someone on that section there doing this, you've got someone on the meat section serving up Wagyu beef, like, every single day. Like, anything they want, these players, is there. Like, there's no shortcuts from creatine to protein to all the tablets. Like, it's all laid on, and that's the same at every single training ground now. And I think players are much more athletes and what we're saying here, elite minded than it was back in the day.
It seems like at the back end of players' careers now, they can get a second shot of superstardom by going to places like Saudi.
Yeah.
Did you ever fancy going over to Saudi Arabia and playing, or becoming maybe a manager?
Well, it weren't about when I was playing, but if it was about, yeah. I mean, and again, you can't begrudge anyone from doing that. And people that say they're going there for a life change or, you know, for the sun, you know, it's not. Let's put it right. They're going there for one thing, and it's their
certainly not the booze, because
exactly. You have to smuggle some in. You're going there for your last lottery ticket, and again, if you get offered that, then, you know, at the end of your career, go ahead, take it. The one is when they get offered it and they're maybe in the peak of their career or they're earlier on in their career. And look, everyone's different. People have grown up in council estates or slums, or, you know, they've you know, wherever, all different parts of the world, and you can't criticise anyone that wants to go and change their family's situation, their families, their kids. Everyone's got a different side to it. So where anyone out there goes and does, then yeah, full credit. But if it was about when I was about, then 100% I'd have been like, where do I sign?
Your podcast, Steve, and obviously doing bits and pieces with Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
Where's that going to go? Like, have you got plans for that?
Yeah, so I've obviously known Crouchy for years and been doing it now for probably about 18 months. We're evolving all the time.
Was you doing one with your wife as well about marriage?
No, Crouchy does the therapy Crouch.
Okay,
so me and my wife, because again, Chrissy knows Abs really well. We was guests on that.
Okay.
So yeah, we're, as a podcast, we're evolving. I think you can't sit still. I think our catchment and our listeners and what they want, we know what they want, and we're always pushing it. I mean, look, we do a podcast on football, but if we do a podcast for an hour, I'd say 6 minutes of that is probably on football and the rest is off-piste. And I think that is what resonates with people when they're driving or listening to it in their home or wherever, or commuting. It's just a laugh, and I think it's everyday fun. And yeah, I've loved it. I love doing it. So yeah, we've got some potential stuff coming up, hopefully this year, possibly next year as well. But they're wacky ideas. But if anyone can get it over the line, it's Peter Crouch.
Yeah, it's a brilliant podcast, mate. Final question.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a mantra that I try and stick to. When I go in my gym at home, I've got it above the door and I've got it on a mat and I've got it in a few different places. And it goes like this: be happy, never content.
Yeah.
Now, I've got my interpretation of what that means. But if I were to ask Steve Sidwell, what does be happy, never content mean to you?
Be happy, never content. I mean, be happy for me, me personally, is always about other people. I always put other people before me. And if all my family are happy and my friends, even before me, I'll accept that. Which is, people will probably go, that's a bit stupid, really. You should always be about how you feel within. But I'll always put that. So as long as my family are happy, first of all, then that's happy and healthy. That's always good enough for me. And then sort of the big content part is never, like, I can never sit still. I'm not that person to sit still anyway. If I got a day off or if I got an hour spare, I've got to be doing things. I'm always trying to improve whatever there is to improve. And I think that goes a long way in itself to not sit still, because if you're sitting still, you're not sitting still, you're only going backwards.
Yeah. Beautiful words, mate. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this podcast, and maybe one day we'll get a podcast part 2 in.
100%.
All right.
Top man. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers.